Mark woke up and didn't know who he was. He was 13 years old, but he didn't remember his name. He didn't remember his mother's face, his father's voice, his home. Nothing. Only a strange, heavy feeling inside his chest, like something important was missing, like his heart remembered what his mind had lost. In a large house behind tall black gates, in a quiet neighborhood of Los Angeles, lived a family that had everything: luxury, power, money, but none of it mattered to them, because their entire world was their son, Mark. Bright, curious, always smiling in a way that felt real. His mother used to say he was her heart. His father used to say everything he built was for him. And Mark believed it would always be that way. But life doesn't ask for permission before it breaks everything. That night, the storm came. At first, just rain, then wind, and then the sky split open. Lightning lit up the yard for a second, like the world froze in white light. Mark stood by the window, watching, curious. He quietly opened the door and stepped outside. Rain hit the ground hard. Wind tore through the trees. Thunder shook the air. Mark took another step, and then a flash, blinding light. His foot slipped on the wet stone. His body fell back, and his head hit the ground. When his parents ran outside, he was gone. No scream, no sign of struggle, only wet ground, and the gates slowly moving in the wind. "Mark!" His mother's voice broke the night. His father ran past the gates, into darkness and rain. But there was nothing. The search began. His face was everywhere. Missing 13-year-old boy? Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. His room stayed untouched. Toys, books, an unfinished drawing on the table. His mother walked in every day and left in tears. His father said nothing. Everything he built lost meaning in one night. A year passed, then another. The world moved on, but for them, time stopped that night, because Mark disappeared, without a trace, without answers, without hope of ever finding him. But they didn't know one thing. He was alive. Mark ran through the night, shaking, lost in the storm. Rain soaked his clothes, mud clung to his skin. His breath came in broken gasps. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't even know who he was. Only one thing pushed him forward: fear. Lightning flashed behind him, illuminating empty roads, fields, dark silhouettes of trees. He kept running until his legs gave up. By the time the storm faded, he had reached a small, forgotten town, a place no one important ever came to. Old wooden houses, broken fences, dim streetlights flickering in the early morning fog. It was quiet, too quiet. Mark stumbled along the road, his vision blurred, his head pounding. And then he collapsed. Hours later, a woman stepped out of her small house. Her name was Sarah. She lived alone, worked long days, had very little. But her heart was bigger than anything she owned. She noticed something lying near the road. At first, she thought it was just trash blown in by the storm. But then it moved. She rushed closer and saw him. A boy, dirty, soaked, unconscious. Her eyes widened. Oh my God! She dropped to her knees beside him, gently touched his face. "Hey, can you hear me?" Mark's eyes slowly opened, confused, empty. He looked at her like a stranger looks at the world for the first time. "Hey, you're okay," she said softly. "You're safe." She helped him sit up. "You must be freezing. Come on." Inside her small house, everything was simple. Old furniture, a quiet warmth. She wrapped him in a blanket, gave him warm tea, watched him carefully. "Do you remember your name?" she asked. Silence. He looked down at his hands, then back at her, and slowly shook his head. "Where are your parents?" Nothing, no answer, No reaction, only confusion, and something deeper. Fear. Sarah felt her chest tighten. This wasn't just a lost boy. This was a child who had lost everything. She didn't call the police. Not yet. Something inside her told her this moment mattered, that if she let him go now, he would disappear again. She sat beside him, softly. "Hey, it's okay," she said. "You don't have to remember right now." He looked at her, eyes tired, searching. "Can I stay here?" he whispered. That question broke something inside her. She had no children, no family, just silence, for years. And now, this boy was sitting in her house asking for a place to stay. She took a breath and smiled gently. "Yeah, you can stay." A small pause, then she added, "We'll figure everything out together." Days passed, then weeks. No one came looking. No missing posters. No police knocking on the door. Nothing. It was like he didn't exist. So Sarah made a decision. "If you don't remember your name," she said one evening, "we can choose one for you." He looked at her, quiet. "Ethan," she said softly. "How about Ethan?" He thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay." And just like that, Mark became Ethan. A new life began. He helped around the house, carried groceries, fixed little things. Sarah worked, cooked, took care of him like he had always been hers. And slowly, he started to smile again. But the nights were different. Sometimes he would wake up suddenly, breathing fast, heart racing, images flashing in his mind. A huge house, bright chandeliers, a man in a suit, a woman hugging him tightly. "Mom," he whispered one night. Sarah turned to him. "Yes?" "I had a dream." He hesitated. "I lived somewhere else." She smiled gently, brushed his hair back. "It's just a dream, sweetheart." He wanted to believe her. He really did. Because this small house, this quiet life, this woman who saved him, felt real, felt safe. But the dreams kept coming, clearer each time. Voices, faces, feelings he couldn't explain. Years passed, and those dreams stopped feeling like dreams. He started to question them. What if it's not just in my head? What if I had another life? But then another thought followed, stronger, heavier. What if I remember and lose all of this? He looked at Sarah, at the only person who ever stayed, who chose him, who saved him, and he stayed silent. Because sometimes the truth is more terrifying than the unknown. The dreams didn't stop. They came back, again and again. At first, they were just fragments, blurred, distant, like shadows slipping through his mind. But then, they became clearer. Mark would wake up in the middle of the night, his heart racing, his hands trembling. He could see it. A house, not small like Sarah's, huge, bright, cold marble floors, tall windows, light pouring from chandeliers above, and voices. A man, strict, controlled. "Stand straight, Mark." A woman, warm, gentle. "It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here." He would sit up in bed, breathing fast, looking around the small room, the cracked walls, the old wooden chair, the thin curtains moving slightly in the night air, and then he would whisper. It felt real. In the morning, he tried to ignore it, but one day he couldn't. "Sarah," he said quietly. She turned from the stove. "Yes?" "I keep seeing things." She froze for a second, just a second, then smiled. "What kind of things?" "A different life." He hesitated. "A big house, people, voices." She walked closer, placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "It's just dreams, Ethan," she said softly. "Sometimes the mind creates stories when it's trying to heal." He nodded, because he wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her, because this life, This small, quiet house, this warm kitchen, this woman who chose him, felt like everything. It wasn't big, it wasn't perfect, but it was warm, safe, real, and deep inside, he knew the truth. If he started looking for answers, he might lose all of this, so he stayed silent. Sarah knew. She saw it in his eyes. The questions, the doubt, the memories trying to break through, and she knew. What she was doing wasn't right. Somewhere out there, someone might be looking for him, a family, parents, a past, but she had no one, no children, no second chances. And now, she had him. If I lose him, she thought one night sitting alone in the dark, I lose everything. She closed her eyes and made her choice. Even if I have to pay for it, I won't regret it. Because she loved him. Not as a stranger, not as someone she found, as her son. Years passed. Mark grew older, stronger, quieter, but inside, the storm never stopped. One day, he got a job. Construction work. Simple, hard, honest. That's where everything changed. The sun was high, dust in the air, men shouting, tools clanking. Ethan was working with a younger guy, Jake. Nervous, inexperienced, trying his best. "Careful with that," Ethan said. But it was too late. Jake slipped, dropped a stack of materials. They crashed to the ground. Loud. Everyone turned. Silence. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. A man approached, well-dressed, clean, cold, not like the others. "Who did this?" he asked sharply. Jake froze, couldn't speak. Ethan stepped forward. It was an accident. The man looked at him, eyes sharp, unforgiving. "Accident?" he repeated. "Do you know how much that costs?" Jake lowered his head, whispered, "I'm sorry." Mark stepped in front of him. "He's new," Ethan said firmly. "I told him to carry it. It's on me." The man's expression hardened. "So now you're responsible?" Ethan didn't move. "Yes." A pause. Tension building. "You think this is a game?" the man snapped. "I pay you to work properly, not to babysit mistakes." Something inside Ethan shifted. "You think people are machines?" he shot back. "People make mistakes." The workers went silent. No one talked to the boss like that. No one. The man stepped closer. "You don't tell me how to run my business." "And you don't treat people like they're nothing," Ethan replied. Their eyes locked. And suddenly, something hit him. The voice. That voice. His chest tightened, his breath caught. "I've heard it before," he thought. But where? The man stared at him. Something unreadable in his expression. Behind him, a woman was watching. Elegant, composed, distant. At first, she didn't care. Just another worker, another problem. But then, something changed. She noticed how he stood, how he spoke, how he didn't step back. There was something familiar. In his posture, in his eyes, in the way he held his ground. She narrowed her gaze, watching closer now. Mark felt it too. A strange pull, a feeling he couldn't explain. He looked away, said nothing more, because if he said it out loud, if he admitted what he felt, everything could change, and he wasn't ready to lose the only life he had left. The next day, she came back. Elizabeth stood at the edge of the construction site, watching him. Not like before, not casually, not from a distance. Now she was looking closer, at his hands. The way he held the tools, the way he stood his ground. There was something in him, something familiar. John stood beside her, cold, focused. "I'm firing him," he said quietly. Elizabeth didn't look away. "Why?" "He's a problem," John replied. "He argues. He challenges authority. I don't need that." She finally turned to him. "He defended someone," she said calmly. John frowned. "That's not his job." "He didn't run away from responsibility," she added. He took the blame. John's voice hardened. I don't pay people to think. I pay them to work. Elizabeth's eyes softened, but there was something deeper now. No, she said quietly. You pay people to be human, too. A pause. Wind moved through the construction site, dust in the air. He reminds me of someone, she said. John looked at her. Who? She hesitated, her voice lowered. Mark. Silence. John's expression changed instantly. No, he said sharply, don't start this again. But she couldn't stop. I saw it yesterday, she whispered. The way he looks, the way he speaks, even the way he stands. John shook his head. That's impossible. But Elizabeth's eyes filled with something stronger than doubt. Hope, fear, desperation. I haven't slept, she said. I couldn't. I kept thinking, what if it's him? Her voice broke slightly. What if our son has been right in front of us, and we just didn't see it? John turned away, jaw tight. No, he said again. That's not him. But even he didn't sound certain anymore. I need to know, Elizabeth whispered. I won't survive another what if. Later that day, she walked toward Ethan. Slowly, carefully. He noticed her, felt that same strange tension again, that pull. Hey, she said softly. Ethan nodded. Hi. She stood close now, closer than before, studying his face, every detail. Can you show me your neck? She asked quietly. Ethan frowned. What? Please. Something in her voice was different, not demanding, not cold, desperate. He hesitated, then slowly pulled his collar aside, and she saw it. A small scar, faded, but unmistakable. Her breath caught. Her hands began to shake. Mark? She whispered. John turned instantly. What did you say? He stepped closer, looked, and froze. The scar, the same one, from when he was a child. No, John breathed. That's not possible. Ethan stood still, heart pounding, faster, louder. I'm not Mark, he said, but his voice trembled. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. You are, she whispered. You're our son. And in that moment, everything broke open. Flashes, voices, memories, the house, the storm, the fall, his mother's voice, his father's face. Mark closed his eyes. Pain rushed through him. Then, clarity. Mom? He whispered. Elizabeth collapsed into tears. John stepped back, stunned. Their son. After all these years. He was alive. They took him home. The same house, the same gates, the same walls. But something had changed. Mark walked through the room slowly. Touching things, remembering, but also feeling distant, because part of him was still somewhere else, with Sarah. When they found out about her, everything shifted again. She kept him, John said sharply, for years. She should have reported him, he added. This is illegal. Elizabeth looked conflicted, but John had already decided. She's responsible, he said, and she will answer for it. Police arrived. Sarah was taken, and Mark couldn't believe it. No, he said, you can't do this. John turned to him. She broke the law. She saved me, Mark replied. Silence. They think I was kidnapped, he said slowly. But I wasn't. His voice grew stronger. She found me when I had nothing. No name, no memory, no one. He looked directly at them. She gave me a home. Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears again. She loved me, he said, not because of who I was, but because I was alone. John said nothing. I can't live like this, Mark continued. Not if she's in prison because of me. His voice broke. She's my family, too. That word changed everything. Family. Elizabeth closed her eyes, tears falling silently. John looked away. Long pause, Then finally, he exhaled. "Release her," he said quietly. The case was dropped. Sarah was freed. When Mark saw her again, he ran to her, held her tightly. "You're not alone," he whispered. "Not anymore." John and Elizabeth stood nearby, watching. For the first time, they understood something. Love doesn't always look the same. They helped her, gave her a house, security, peace, but more importantly, respect. And Mark never forgot, because he had 2 lives, 2 families, 2 kinds of love. One that gave him everything, and one that saved him when he had nothing. And no matter how much time passed, he carried both in his heart.